I was 45 years old, standing in my wedding dress, when everything I thought I knew about love came crashing down. The woman who destroyed my wedding day also saved my life. And I need to tell you this story because if you're watching this, if something feels off in your relationship, you need to trust that feeling. You need to listen. Because I almost didn't. My name is Rebecca, and this is the day I was supposed to marry the love of my life. Instead, it became the day I discovered I was about to marry a monster. The morning started like a fairy tale. Sunlight poured through the windows of the bridal suite, catching the crystals on my dress and scattering rainbow fragments across the walls. My bridesmaids buzzed around me, fixing my hair, touching up makeup, laughing about champagne toasts and bouquet tosses. I remember thinking, this is it. This is my second chance at happiness. After my divorce 10 years ago, after all the lonely nights and failed dates and moments where I wondered if I'd ever feel loved again, I'd found Daniel. Daniel was everything my first husband wasn't. Attentive. Romantic. Successful. He remembered small details about conversations we'd had months before. He brought me coffee exactly how I liked it without being asked. He looked at me like I was the only woman in the world. At 45, when society tells you your best years are behind you, Daniel made me feel seen. Desired. Chosen. We met at a charity gala 18 months earlier. I was there with colleagues from the nonprofit where I worked. He was there alone, he said, because his date had canceled last minute. We started talking by the bar and didn't stop for 3 hours. He was a financial consultant, traveled frequently for work, had never been married. That should have been my first red flag. A handsome, successful man in his late 40s who'd never been married? But he explained it away so smoothly. Career-focused. Hadn't met the right person. Waiting for someone special. Someone like me. The whirlwind romance that followed felt like something from a movie. Weekend getaways to wine country. Surprise deliveries of my favorite flowers. Long conversations that stretched into dawn. He proposed after 8 months, on a beach in Maui, with a ring that must have cost more than I made in 6 months. I said yes without hesitation. My friends were thrilled. My daughter from my first marriage was cautious but supportive. Everyone said I deserved this happiness. But his mother was different. Patricia seemed uncomfortable around me from the start. She was polite but distant at family dinners. Her smiles never quite reached her eyes. When Daniel introduced us, she studied me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. She asked strange questions. How long had we known each other? What did I know about his past? Did I have life insurance? That last one especially struck me as odd, but Daniel laughed it off. Said his mother was paranoid about financial security after his father died and left her with nothing. In the months leading up to the wedding, Patricia tried to get me alone several times. Daniel always interrupted. Always steered the conversation away. Always had a reason we needed to leave early. I told myself she was just overprotective. Struggling to let go of her son. I'd read about difficult mother-in-law relationships. I figured we'd work through it after the wedding. I had no idea she was trying to warn me. The knock on the bridal suite door came 30 minutes before the ceremony. My maid of honor opened it and Patricia stood there, clutched a cream-colored envelope in her trembling hands. Her face was pale, her eyes red-rimmed like she'd been crying. She looked older than I'd ever seen her, smaller somehow, diminished by whatever weight she carried. I need to speak with Rebecca, she said. Her voice shook. Alone. My bridesmaids exchanged glances. The energy in the room shifted, joy replaced by confusion and concern. My maid of honor, Sarah, stepped between us protectively. Mrs. Crawford, this really isn't the time, Sarah said gently. Rebecca needs to finish getting ready. Please. Patricia's eyes met mine across the room. There was something in her gaze I'd never seen before. Desperation. Fear. And something else. Something that looked like grief. 5 minutes. That's all I need. Something in her tone made my heart start racing. My hands went cold despite the warm room. Every instinct screamed that I didn't want to hear what she had to say. That if I let her speak, everything would change. But I nodded. It's okay, I heard myself say. Everyone, give us a moment. Sarah squeezed my hand before leaving. I'll be right outside. The door closed. Patricia and I stood on opposite sides of the room, the wedding dress between us like a white barrier. For a long moment, she just looked at me. Tears spilled down her cheeks, ruining her carefully applied makeup. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. I tried to tell you before. I tried to find the right moment, the right words. But he watches you so closely. He always does. And I was afraid if I waited until after, it would be too late. Mrs. Crawford, what are you talking about? My voice came out steadier than I felt. Too late for what? She held out the envelope. Her hand shook so badly I thought she might drop it. Read this. Please. Before you walk down that aisle. Before you say those vows. You need to know who you're marrying. I stared at the envelope like it was a snake. I know who I'm marrying. I know Daniel. No. Her voice broke. You don't. None of them did. None of who? She thrust the envelope toward me. Please. Just read it. If you still want to marry him after, I'll never speak of this again. I'll leave. I'll disappear from both your lives. But you deserve to know the truth. You deserve a choice. My hand moved almost without my permission. I took the envelope. It was heavier than it should have been. Thick with papers. With secrets. With something that made Patricia look at me like I was already a ghost. I'll be outside, she said quietly. You have 20 minutes before the ceremony starts. That's enough time to read it. Enough time to decide. She paused at the door, her hand on the handle. I know you have no reason to trust me. I know this seems crazy. But I'm begging you. Read it. And then ask yourself if you've ever noticed anything strange. Anything that didn't quite add up. Because they all missed the signs until it was too late. Then she was gone, and I was alone with the envelope. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside were papers. Photographs. Newspaper clippings. And a letter in Patricia's handwriting, dated 3 days earlier. I sat down on the edge of the bed, my wedding dress pooling around me like a cloud, and began to read. The letter started simply. Dear Rebecca, by the time you read this, you'll think I'm insane. You'll want to dismiss everything as the ravings of a jealous mother-in-law. I pray you won't. I pray you'll read everything in this envelope and then make your own choice. But you need to know what I know. You need to see what I've seen. Because I cannot stand by and watch another woman disappear. Another woman disappear. The words made my stomach clench. I kept reading. Patricia's letter laid out a story that seemed impossible. Daniel wasn't who he claimed to be. His real name was Daniel Crawford, that part was true. But almost everything else was a lie. He wasn't a lifelong bachelor. He'd been married before. 3 times before. 3 different women in 3 different states over the past 15 years. And all 3 of his previous wives were missing. The room tilted. I gripped the edge of the bed to steady myself. This couldn't be real. It had to be some mistake, some misunderstanding. Daniel loved me. He'd never hurt me. But my hands kept turning pages, and the evidence kept mounting. The first wife was named Jennifer. They married when Daniel was 32. She was 41. A widow with a successful career in real estate and a substantial life insurance policy that named Daniel as the beneficiary. They were married for 2 years before Jennifer disappeared during a hiking trip in Colorado. Her body was never found. Daniel was questioned but never charged. He inherited everything. The second wife was Michelle. Married when Daniel was 36. She was 43. A divorced attorney with significant assets and no children. They were together for 3 years before Michelle vanished from a beach resort in Mexico where they were vacationing. Again, no body was found. Again, Daniel was questioned and released. Again, he inherited her estate. The third wife was Sophia. Married when Daniel was 40. She was 45. The same age I was now. A teacher who'd saved carefully and had a sizable retirement account. They were married for 18 months before Sophia disappeared from their home while Daniel was allegedly on a business trip. This time there was more suspicion, a longer investigation, but still no charges. Still no body. Still an inheritance. If you're watching this and thinking this sounds too crazy to be true, write in the comments if you've ever ignored warning signs because you wanted to believe in someone. Because I almost did. I almost convinced myself this was all coincidence. But then I looked at the photographs Patricia had included. 3 different women. 3 different weddings. And they all looked eerily similar. All in their 40s. All with brown hair and green eyes like mine. All with the same body type, the same smile, the same hopeful expression in their wedding photos. It was like looking at alternate versions of myself. And in every photo, Daniel looked exactly the same. Same charming smile. Same adoring gaze. Same pose with his arm around his bride's waist. Like he was following a script he performed 3 times before. My hands trembled so badly I almost dropped the papers. This couldn't be happening. Not on my wedding day. Not when 200 guests were waiting downstairs. Not when I was wearing the dress I'd spent months choosing. Not when I'd finally found happiness again. But the evidence kept piling up. Patricia had included copies of marriage certificates. Death benefit claims. Police reports. Newspaper articles about the missing women. And most damning of all, a private investigator's report she'd commissioned 3 months earlier. The investigator had traced Daniel's pattern. He targeted successful women in their 40s. Women who were divorced or widowed. Women with assets but no close family. Women who were lonely and eager to believe in second chances. He romanced them quickly, married them within a year, isolated them from friends and family, and then they disappeared. Always during trips or when he had an alibi. Always without a trace. The investigator concluded there was likely a 4th victim before Jennifer. A woman named Catherine in Nevada whose case went cold 12 years ago. The pattern was clear. Daniel was a predator. A serial killer who married for money and murdered for inheritance. And I was supposed to become wife number 4 in less than 20 minutes. A sound escaped my throat. Something between a sob and a scream. I clapped my hand over my mouth to keep it in. Outside the door, I could hear my bridesmaids laughing about something. Music drifted up from the ceremony space. Someone testing the microphone. The mundane sounds of a wedding day, completely disconnected from the horror unfolding in this room. I forced myself to keep reading. Patricia's letter continued. She explained how she'd discovered the truth. 6 months ago, she'd found old photographs in Daniel's apartment while helping him move. Photos of women she didn't recognize. Wedding photos. When she asked about them, Daniel got angry. Told her to mind her own business. Threatened to cut her off if she kept prying. That reaction made her suspicious. She started digging into his past. Started finding inconsistencies in his stories. Started discovering the wives he'd never mentioned. She tried to go to the police, but they said there wasn't enough evidence to reopen the investigations. Daniel had been cleared in each case. Without bodies, without witnesses, without proof of foul play, they couldn't charge him. The detectives she spoke to agreed it looked suspicious, but suspicion wasn't enough for an arrest. So Patricia took matters into her own hands. She hired the private investigator. She gathered evidence. And she tried desperately to warn me without alerting Daniel. The strange questions at dinners. The attempts to get me alone. The time she'd called my office and hung up when my assistant answered. She'd been trying to save my life. The letter ended with a plea. I know this is asking the impossible. I know you love him. God help me, he's my son and part of me still loves him too. But I cannot let him do this again. I cannot watch another woman trust him and then disappear. If you choose to marry him anyway, I'll respect your decision. But please, Rebecca. Please think about whether you've noticed anything strange. Whether there have been moments that didn't feel right. Whether he's been isolating you from the people who care about you. Whether he's asked about your assets, your insurance, your will. Because if the answer is yes to any of those things, you need to walk away. Now. While you still can. I sat frozen, the papers scattered across the white silk of my dress. My mind raced through every moment of my relationship with Daniel. Every conversation. Every gesture. Every warning sign I dismissed as paranoia or coincidence. And oh God, there were so many signs. The way he'd encouraged me to update my will 2 months after we got engaged. Said it was responsible, practical. Made me name him as my beneficiary, in case anything happened. The way he'd slowly convinced me to spend less time with Sarah and my other close friends. Always had a reason why we couldn't make plans with them. Always suggested alternative activities, just the two of us. The way he'd expressed interest in my finances. Asked detailed questions about my retirement accounts, my savings, the life insurance policy from my job. I'd thought he was being thorough, planning our future together. Now every memory took on a sinister cast. The time he'd suggested we go hiking in a remote area, just the two of us, no cell service. I'd been excited about the romantic adventure. Now I wondered if I would have come back from that trip. The vacation he'd been planning to Thailand for our honeymoon. A private beach resort. Secluded. Far from anyone who knew me. My stomach turned. And the control. The subtle, insidious control I'd mistaken for devotion. The way he always knew where I was. The way he'd given me a new phone 6 months ago, said my old one was outdated. Had he put tracking software on it? The way he discouraged me from being close with my daughter, said we needed to focus on building our own family first. Was he isolating me from the one person who might notice if something happened to me? A knock at the door made me jump. Sarah's voice came through. Becca? 10 minutes. How are you doing in there? Fine, I called back, my voice surprisingly steady. Just need a few more minutes. How was I doing? I was sitting in a wedding dress, holding evidence that my fiancé was likely a serial killer, trying to figure out how to get out of this without ending up as a missing person case myself. I looked at the last items in the envelope. Photos of Daniel's previous wives. Jennifer, Michelle, Sophia. They all smiled out at me from their wedding days, hopeful and happy and completely unaware. And then photos of their families at vigils, holding missing person posters, crying for cameras. Mothers who lost daughters. Friends who lost companions. Lives destroyed by one man's greed and violence. I could not let myself become one of them. I could not let my daughter stand in front of news cameras, pleading for information about my disappearance. I could not let Daniel win again. But I also couldn't just run. If I bolted, if I made a scene, he would know I knew. He would disappear like he always did. Change his name again. Find another lonely woman in another city. The pattern would continue. More victims. More families destroyed. I needed a plan. I needed proof. And I needed Patricia's help. I gathered all the papers, shoved them back into the envelope, and hid it in my overnight bag. Then I stood, smoothed down my dress, and took 3 deep breaths. My reflection stared back at me from the full-length mirror. A bride on her wedding day. Makeup perfect. Hair perfect. Dress perfect. Only the eyes gave it away. The eyes were those of someone who just stared into an abyss. I opened the door. My bridesmaids clustered around immediately, exclaiming over how beautiful I looked, fussing with my veil, handing me my bouquet. Patricia stood at the back of the group, her face a mask of terrible anticipation. Our eyes met. I gave her the tiniest nod. Her shoulders sagged with relief so profound she had to grip the wall to stay upright. "Sarah," I said, keeping my voice level. "I need you to do something for me. Can you ask Daniel to meet me in the garden? Tell him I know it's bad luck to see the bride, but I need 5 minutes with him before the ceremony. Tell him it's important." Sarah's eyebrows rose. "Are you sure? That's really not traditional." "I'm sure. Please. Just 5 minutes." She shrugged and headed downstairs. I turned to Patricia. "You're coming with me." We walked down the back stairs, away from the main area where guests were seated. The garden where we were supposed to take wedding photos later was empty, surrounded by tall hedges that provided privacy. Perfect for the conversation we were about to have. Daniel appeared 3 minutes later, looking annoyed. "Rebecca, what's this about? We're about to start." He stopped when he saw Patricia standing beside me. His expression shifted. Closed off. Something predatory flickered behind his eyes, there and gone so fast I might have imagined it. "What's she doing here?" he asked. "Your mother gave me something," I said. My voice didn't shake. I was proud of that. "An envelope. With some very interesting information about your past." He went very still. The charming, attentive man I'd fallen in love with vanished, replaced by something cold and calculating. "Whatever she told you is a lie. My mother is mentally unwell. She has paranoid delusions. I've been trying to get her help, but she refuses treatment." "Is that what you told Jennifer's family?" I asked. "What about Michelle's? Sophia's?" His face changed. The mask slipped completely. What looked back at me wasn't human. It was empty. Void. A predator assessing prey. "You stupid woman," he said softly. "You couldn't just let it go. You had to listen to her. Subscribe and hit that notification bell because you need to hear what happened next. This story isn't over yet." "So it's true," I said. My heart hammered but I kept my voice steady. "You killed them. All of them." Daniel laughed. Actually laughed. The sound was wrong, hollow, like it came from somewhere deep and dark. "Killed them? I liberated them. They were so desperate to be loved. So pathetic in their loneliness. They practically threw their money at me. Their trust. Their lives. It was almost too easy." Patricia made a sound like a wounded animal. Daniel's eyes flicked to her, full of contempt. "This is your fault, Mother. You couldn't leave well enough alone. You couldn't let me have this one thing. After everything I've done for you. After I've supported you all these years." "Supported me?" Patricia's voice shook with fury. "You've blackmailed me into silence. Threatened me. Told me you'd have me committed if I ever spoke to anyone about your past. I've lived in terror for years, watching you hunt. Knowing what you are. Knowing what you do to those poor women. Then you should have kept your mouth shut," Daniel said. He turned back to me. "But it's fine. We'll work through this. You're upset, emotional. Weddings are stressful. We'll postpone today, get you some rest, and reschedule when you're thinking more clearly." "I'm not marrying you," I said. "Not today. Not ever." His face hardened. "Yes. You are. You've already signed the prenup. Your will names me as beneficiary. You've told everyone we're soulmates. If you back out now, you'll look insane. Unstable. And when you have an unfortunate accident in a few months, everyone will remember that you were unstable. That you had doubts. That our relationship was troubled. The police will investigate, but they won't find anything. They never do. The casual way he said it. The matter-of-fact tone. Like he was discussing dinner plans instead of my murder. Ice flooded my veins. You're not going to get away with this, I said. Not this time. Haven't I always? He smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. 4 times now. 5 if you count Catherine, but that was early in my career. Sloppy. I've refined my technique since then. And you, Rebecca, you're the perfect victim. Divorced. Limited family. Friends you barely see anymore thanks to me. A job where you travel occasionally for conferences. When you disappear, maybe from that conference in Seattle next month, people will be sad. They'll search. But eventually, they'll stop looking. They always stop looking. I have everything in that envelope, I said. Police reports. Marriage certificates. A private investigator's report. I'm going to the police. With what? Circumstantial evidence? Coincidences? I was cleared in every single case. There are no bodies. No crime scenes. No proof. Just a bitter mother and a hysterical bride with cold feet. He stepped closer. I forced myself not to back away. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to walk down that aisle. You're going to marry me. And if you're very, very good, I might let you live a little longer than the others. Maybe a full 2 years before your tragic accident. And if I refuse? His smile widened. Then I'll be devastated. My bride left me at the altar. Ran away because of lies my mentally ill mother told her. I'll be sympathetic. Heartbroken. And when you turn up dead a few weeks later, a victim of some random violence, well, who could have predicted such a tragedy? Certainly not me. I'll even attend your funeral. Cry convincingly. Maybe connect with your daughter over our shared grief. The threat to my daughter made rage flash through me, burning away the fear. You stay away from her. Or what? He was enjoying this now. The power. The control. What are you going to do, Rebecca? You have no proof. No witnesses. No. Actually, Patricia said quietly, she has both. Daniel turned to his mother, confusion flickering across his face. Patricia reached into her purse and pulled out her phone. The screen glowed, showing a red recording icon. I've been recording this entire conversation, she said. Every word. Every threat. Every confession. And I've been streaming it live to my lawyer's voicemail. Even if you kill us both right now, it's already saved. Already evidence. The color drained from Daniel's face. For the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. Real fear. You can't, he whispered. You're my mother. I'm the mother of a monster, Patricia said. Tears streamed down her face, but her hand holding the phone was steady. And I will not let you kill anyone else. I should have stopped you after Jennifer. After Michelle. God forgive me, I didn't. I was weak. Scared. I told myself maybe it was coincidence. Maybe I was wrong. But I knew. Deep down, I always knew. And my silence killed Sophia. I won't let it kill Rebecca too. Daniel looked between us. Calculating. Assessing. Looking for an exit. Don't even think about running, I said. Sarah isn't just my maid of honor. She's an attorney. And right now, she's calling the police. They'll be here in minutes. It was a bluff. Sarah didn't know anything yet. But Daniel didn't know that. His face contorted with rage. He lunged toward Patricia, grabbing for her phone. I didn't think. I just moved. Swung my bouquet with all my strength. The heavy base, weighted with flowers and wrapped in ribbon, connected with the side of his head. He stumbled. I hit him again. And again. Years of self-defense classes I'd taken after my divorce took over. Knee to the groin. Elbow to the face when he doubled over. He went down hard on the garden path. Patricia and I stood over him, both breathing hard. My wedding dress was torn. Her makeup was completely ruined. And Daniel lay groaning at our feet, blood trickling from his nose. That, I said, was for Jennifer. And Michelle. And Sophia. And every other woman you ever hurt. Sarah's voice called from the house. Becca? The police are here? What's going on? Turns out, Patricia had actually called them before the ceremony. Had them waiting nearby in case they were needed. In case I believed her. In case this confrontation went badly. Write in the comments if you think I should have seen the warning signs earlier. Because I did see them. I just didn't want to believe them. The next few hours were chaos. Police. Questions. Statements. Guests confused and concerned, filtering out of the venue as word spread that the wedding was cancelled. My daughter arrived, terrified and furious, demanding to know what happened. Holding her, explaining everything, was one of the hardest conversations of my life. Daniel was arrested on assault charges initially, based on his threats and my self-defense injuries. But Patricia's recording gave police enough cause to reopen the investigations into his previous wives. They got search warrants. Started digging into his finances, his properties, his past. What they found was worse than anyone imagined. Daniel had a storage unit under a false name 2 hours outside the city. Inside, they found trophies from his victims. Jewelry. Driver's licenses. Wedding rings. And journals. Detailed journals describing how he'd selected each woman. How he'd courted her. How he'd killed her. Where he'd disposed of the bodies. 4 women. Not 3. 4. Catherine in Nevada was real. And there was another one even Patricia hadn't known about. A woman named Lisa in Oregon, 10 years ago. Daniel had been perfecting his technique for over a decade. The journals led police to the burial sites. Remote locations in national forests where he'd hiked with his wives before killing them. One by one, they recovered the bodies. Gave the families closure. Gave the victims justice. Daniel tried to claim the journals were fiction. Creative writing. But forensic evidence didn't lie. And Patricia's recording of his confession was damning. He was charged with 5 counts of first-degree murder. The trial took 8 months. I had to testify. Had to sit in a courtroom and face the man I'd almost married while prosecutors detailed how he would have killed me. Probably on our honeymoon in Thailand. A drowning accident. So tragic. So preventable. Just like all the others. The defense tried to paint Patricia as manipulative. Claimed she'd brainwashed me against her own son out of jealousy. But the evidence was overwhelming. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. 5 consecutive life sentences without possibility of parole. When the verdict was read, I looked at Patricia across the courtroom. She was crying. Grieving the son she'd lost long ago. The boy he'd been before something inside him broke and twisted into darkness. But she was also relieved. The nightmare was finally over. As for me, I'd like to say I recovered quickly. That I moved on and found happiness. But the truth is messier than that. I spent months in therapy. Dealing with trauma. With betrayal. With the knowledge of how close I'd come to being another statistic. Another missing woman. Another cold case file. I had nightmares where I walked down the aisle. Where I said, I do. Where Daniel smiled at me with those empty eyes and led me away to somewhere remote and dark. I'd wake up gasping, checking locks, making sure I was safe. My daughter moved in with me for a while. Didn't like the idea of me being alone. We grew closer during those months than we'd been in years. Trauma has a way of stripping away the superficial and leaving only what matters. Family. Safety. Trust. And Patricia. Patricia became an unexpected anchor in my life. We bonded over grief and guilt and relief. She'd lost her son. I'd lost my illusion of love. We understood each other's pain in a way no one else could. She became like a mother to me. The relationship we should have had if circumstances had been different. Together, we started a foundation. An organization to help women recognize warning signs of predatory relationships. We speak at shelters, at support groups, at colleges. We share our story. Share the red flags we missed or ignored. Share the importance of trusting your instincts. Because that's the thing about predators like Daniel. They're charming. Convincing. They know exactly what lonely, hopeful people want to hear. And they use that knowledge like a weapon. But there are always signs. Always moments where something feels off. And if you're watching this, if something in your relationship doesn't feel right, I need you to listen to that voice. That instinct. That little whisper of doubt. Don't dismiss it as paranoia. Don't let anyone convince you you're being crazy or dramatic. Don't ignore warning signs because you want so badly to believe in love. Trust yourself. Trust the people who care about you. And if someone is isolating you, controlling you, showing too much interest in your finances, rushing the relationship, trust that those are red flags. Trust that you deserve better. It's been 2 years now since my almost wedding day. 2 years since Patricia handed me that envelope and saved my life. I'm not the same person I was. How could I be? But I'm alive. I'm healing. And I'm using my experience to help others. I haven't dated since Daniel. Maybe I will someday. Maybe not. But I know now that being alone is infinitely better than being with someone who wants to hurt you. That loneliness is survivable, but ignoring your instincts might not be. 5 women didn't get that chance. Jennifer, Michelle, Sophia, Catherine, and Lisa. They trusted Daniel. They loved him. And he killed them for it. I think about them often. Wonder what their lives would have been like if someone had warned them. If someone had handed them an envelope on their wedding day and given them a choice. I got that chance because one woman was brave enough to speak up. Brave enough to risk everything to save a stranger. Patricia knew I might not believe her. Knew I might marry Daniel anyway. Knew he might kill us both for interfering. But she tried anyway. That kind of courage saved my life. And in sharing this story, I hope maybe it saves someone else's too. If this story resonated with you, please leave a comment. Share your own experiences with warning signs you noticed or ignored. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss more stories like this. Because these aren't just stories. They're warnings. They're lessons. They're proof that sometimes the most important thing you can do is trust the person trying to pull you back from the edge. My wedding day didn't go as planned. I didn't marry the love of my life. I didn't walk down the aisle to a future of happiness and romance. Instead, I walked away from a man who would have killed me. And you know what? That's the better ending. That's the happy ending. Because I'm here to tell you about it. I'm alive. I'm safe. And I'm never, ever ignoring my instincts again. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you to Patricia, who saved my life. And thank you to Jennifer, Michelle, Sophia, Catherine, and Lisa. Your lives mattered. Your stories matter. And you'll never be forgotten. If you or someone you know is in a relationship that doesn't feel safe, please reach out for help. National domestic violence hotlines are confidential and available 24 hours a day. You deserve to be safe. You deserve to be believed. And you deserve to live. This is Rebecca, signing off. Stay safe out there. Trust yourself. And if something feels wrong, don't walk down that aisle. Run.